Who is Luca Koleosho? Hi, welcome to CanMNT. My name is Filippo. I'm your host here, and today we have an exclusive interview with Luca Koleosho. Luca's a 17-year-old American-Canadian winger which also has European passports, which he'll mention during the interview. He currently plays for the Espanol U19s and has been impressing and could be in La Liga as soon as next season, even though he just turned 17. Also, props to him for moving to Spain at age 11 alone. And yes, with the consent of his parents, but he did move on his own to pursue his dream to become a professional soccer player, and he's getting there. With that said, guys, sit back, relax, enjoy. Let's learn more about Luca from Luca himself, and a special thank you to Luca for coming along here in the channel. Make sure to hit that like button before we start the video. Obviously, I won't be requesting during the interview. Also, I put his Instagram handle down on the description, so go give him a follow. All right, sit back, relax, let's play the intro, and let's bring in Luca. All right, everyone, today we have Luca Koleosho here at the channel. He plays for the Espanyol, a La Liga team, U19s, and we're going to learn more about him today here. First, thank you very much for taking the time for being here with us.
My pleasure.
All right, Luca, so before we start with anything in regards to, well, there'll be a little bit of soccer in it. Why don't you tell us a little bit of your story? You're American, you grew up here in the US, but you moved very early to Spain, and tell us a little bit about your story so the viewers can get to know you a little bit better. And while we're at it, I'm probably going to have some questions here and there.
So I started playing travel soccer in Trumbull, and I was there for about a year. And then when I turned 7 or 8 years old, I ended up going to a team called Manhattan Kickers, and I was able to play year-round. We played obviously in the fall, and also in the winter we did futsal, and in the spring as well. We had our season, and from there I had a coach that was from Barcelona, so 1 or 2 times we had a trip, and we went twice to Spain and played tournaments there, and my coach was pushing for me to end up going to Spain, and I wanted to do it, and I told my parents, and they were skeptical at first, but they thought it was a good opportunity for me, so I decided to take the jump and move there.
So how old were you when you moved to Spain?
I was 11.
11. Okay, so you moved as a kid still. Weren't even a teenager yet. You moved as a kid to Spain. And just for the viewers here as well, as I mentioned, he plays for Espanyol, and Espanyol is located at Catalonia as well. They're rivals of Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
So I actually have a question in regards to that. So you had a Barcelona coach that you knew, and you ended up at Espanyol, which is their rivals. How did that happen? Why specifically Espanyol? Were there other options? Were there other clubs you look into? Was it a personal choice? Was it something your parents played a role? Can you dive into that if you can, of course?
So my coach wasn't from the club Barcelona, but he was from the area. And when I was in Spain, I was playing for a team called Reus Deportivo. And from there, I wasn't allowed to play the first 2 years. So I was there from U11 to U13, played the U13 season in November, and then obviously played the U14 season, and then teams started looking at me, but they were a bit skeptical because of the whole situation happening with Barca and people getting banned and stuff, and Espanyol was the one to take the leap and take me in to have me play for them.
Okay, so it was so there were risks at the time due to, young player abroad. You weren't able to play for 2 years from an official match, right? That's what you said? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to the next topic, I want to talk one thing real quick. So you played a little bit of soccer here. You were very young, so I don't know how much you remember of it in the United States. You played futsal, which I love to hear that. I think we do need more futsal in the United States, especially from a technical ability standpoint. In tight spaces, you learn how to deal with it much better when you transition to the field. From what you remember, what could you say were the differences of adjusting to Spain at such a young age, soccer wise, right? Not even lifestyle, because you were a kid, and I mean, I can just imagine. I also moved a lot. I grew up in Brazil, moved to the United States, and
Mhm.
back and forth. From a soccer standpoint, what were the main differences you noticed in youth development, if you remember when you were here?
Um, the speed of play and the technical ability, because over here, everyone plays a lot faster, and the coach demands from the players to a certain level, and how fast they should be able to play, and they demand everyone to to have a big technical ability, because over here they're really competing from a young age, because the kids from when they're young, they're able to get scouted by the Barca, Espanyol, Madrids, so it's more of like a high demand.
Hmm. Yeah, I expect that too. It's somewhat similar in Brazil and Spain. We know the development there is heavily focused on technical ability. That's what their national team relies on. And I know they're very good on futsal too, Spain and Brazil are the most dominant nations, I believe, in futsal, or up there, top five. But we're going to move on to the next part of this interview chat between us. And I want to talk a little bit about national team. And I know you're still 17, so it's just right now you don't know where to go. You're still going to go to the not professional, but the senior level. Now, can you tell us a little bit, because I've talked to your dad before and he's mentioned that you have different nationalities, right? You do have the American passport, Canadian as well. I believe from living in Spain, that one, and many different ones. Now, when it comes to that, do you have a, I wouldn't say, I obviously you leave your opportunities open, especially at such a young age. But can you tell us which ones you have, and if you do have a preference right now, or it's you're leaving it open and seeing how fate will lead you, essentially, destiny.
So I have America from being born there. My dad's Nigerian, and my mom is Italian Canadian. So mainly those four I'll be able to play for. In terms of representing, it's just which one decides to call me up and to have me play for them. So right now, I mean, my option's always open. It's just which one wants to call me up and to have me represent them. So I mean, right now I'm focused on league, and then when the national team stuff comes in and they want one of them wants me to play for them, then I'll make the decision.
We're gonna get into this later in the video here, because I wanted to talk maybe on a youth level, because you've been abroad too, so it's harder to scout, especially Canada and the United States, which I would assume might be even your main options here. It's more of your homeland, but that'll be a decision for later on. Have you played for any youth national team as of now, or not yet?
Yeah, I played for the U.S. in was it U16, right? For 15 U15.
Okay, so you have played for the United States already, youth, and we're gonna get to that topic very soon. I want to ask you about. I know you kind of briefly mentioned why you went to play in Spain, but at the same time, one thing that's been growing in the U.S., I think it's far from perfect, and I'm even a little critical of it. Some might say too much, but there is a path to becoming a professional going through MLS as well. Did that ever go through your mind? Was it an opportunity that you just decided to take in Spain, or you really just preferred to start abroad? Because I had here in the channel Jonathan Gomez, for example, that plays in USL, and he's moving to Spain right now. He's going to play for Real Sociedad B, and then hopefully the main squad as well soon. He's about your age, I think. Jonathan just turned 18, and he personally chose to go to USL because he wanted to go abroad earlier, and he thought MLS might have him stay in MLS a little bit longer. He wanted to go abroad early, and he's going at age 18 already, and you went even earlier. Was it more of a personal choice, or was it because the opportunity showed up? Can you talk why you didn't go the MLS route?
I had a choice between either going to Spain or playing for New York Red Bulls, because I ended up going to a tryout there, and I ended up making the team. So it was just a decision of if I wanted to stay there or to go to Spain. And I thought the best choice was for me to go to Spain, and I thought that it'd be way better for my development.
So it was just a personal choice in regards to career then. Yeah, that's what I wanted to check in with. But that was just a quick question. I want to move to the second one here, which you already, another topic, which you already responded to one. You already said you were with the United States youth squad back on the U15. So that was probably it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, roughly. And my question to this is, ever since you've been in camp, has the U.S. Soccer Federation been in touch with you? Not in the sense of calling up, but at least following up, seeing how you're doing. Has there been anything like, or at least in touch with your club? Have you known of anything?
Yeah. After um after the camp, they ended up getting back in touch during when we were supposed to have the World Cup that got canceled because of COVID. So they were talking to us. They had us. They had me in the pool. They would have meetings of when there would be camps coming up, and they had one of the coaches talk to us. They had the I don't know if it was the first team coach, but it was somebody that they had them talk to us as well, and then they were saying that they were gonna keep in touch and let us know anything about the World Cup and when the camps would be, and then it ended up getting canceled. So after that, I just nothing's really popped up.
Yeah, so maybe they got affected by the pandemic. Who knows? Maybe they can do a better job with it. Regardless, what I wanted to ask you too is, I don't know how much you remember about the youth tournament you were with the United States that you mentioned before the World Cup and everything. Were there any players that are right now playing professionally already in that camp? Because you're young, but maybe is there anyone that you remember at least that you've been in touch?
Uh, the ones that I remember, we had one kid named Leo that after the camp he ended up making his debut in the USL, and then I was in camp with Gabriel Solonia,
Mm.
who is also at Chicago Fire, and Antonio Leone that signed his contract with LAFC.
Yeah, actually, Antonio Leone just played. He just played for Mexico now.
Yeah, I
And
saw that game.
yeah, and Gaga Slonina, the goalkeeper for Chicago, he played for the United States in Revelations Cup right now
hmm
too. With that said, here, what is next for you in Espanol? How is it looking right now? You're in the U19s. Uh, are you set to? Do you have a professional contract? Are you going to sign it soon? What is what is the expectation for next year? Which by next year I mean after the summer, right? You're going to finish the U19 season probably. Talk about what's next in Espanol.
yeah, I signed the professional contract in July of 2021, and for next year, hopefully, in my eyes, I feel like I could be fighting for the first team, but it just depends on what the club wants to do with me. I've trained with them 5 times this season, so the club is have been happy. They told me that they're happy with me. So it just depends on what they want to do and when they think I'm ready.
Got it. So they do have plans on possibly putting you in the first team, or maybe even alone, so you can get some first team experience, move out of the U19s. And again, just to remind everyone watching the interview, Luca's still 17. When do you turn 18?
In September.
September. Oh, so you literally just turned 17, like two
Yeah.
months ago. Okay, so that it's still very young. Now, one thing I wanted to chat with you about very quickly here is, this is close to wrapping up the interview and everything. We talked about U.S. soccer. We talked about Espanyol. We talked about how you got to Europe. The choice of going abroad instead of MLS right now, the New York Red Bulls. Now, one thing I want to check with you, and this is just more of a just like a hangout part of the interview, as a kid, or right now, I mean, you're still a teenager. Uh, what would be your main dreams with soccer? In the sense, would it be to play a World Cup? Would it be more club career? Is there anything you're more focused on? It's more of like just what would be your dream in regards to that. Is there a club you dream of playing one day if you want to get into that? Obviously, sometimes players don't want to talk about that, or league you want to play. What would be your take on that?
Dream team, the dream club I want to play for, in my opinion, would be Bayern Munich.
Oh,
Yeah, because I like the way they play, how the way they attack, how they always want to attack and score, and I would love to play with them in the Bundesliga, and to compete in the Champions League, and hopefully try and win one. So I'd have to say Bayern Munich.
Yeah, it's debatably the best team in the world. At least I would say probably the most consistent I've seen the past 20 years, Bayern Munich, because so we see like Barcelona, for example, where you are, they're definitely below what they were a few years ago, going through a rough. I never seen Bayern really go, at least in my life, and I'm not that old. I'm not that much older than you. So at least in my life, I haven't seen Bayern struggle. That is something I haven't experienced yet, and you definitely didn't experience because you're even younger. And for you specifically, in the international level, right? National team
Mm.
level, do you value club or national team more? Or is it different for you? How do you see that? Is your dream more towards a club level or international level?
I don't know. I value it more the same because even no matter how much I would win with my club, I would always want to try and win something with my country because where I represent, that's me. I could play for a team, but I don't know. I value it more as the same, but I think I'd feel a lot better if I was to win something with my country.
Yeah, I understand that too. I see it. So in the United States, soccer culture is growing still, but specifically Brazil, every kid's dream is yes to play for Bayern, Barcelona, Manchester City, Manchester United. But the main goal of any Brazilian kid is to win a World Cup with Brazil, and uh, I think that's something very normal among soccer players. And I mean, look, if you're gonna win a World Cup, it's better to pick United States over Canada. Just saying. I'm joking. But Luca, once again, thank you very much for coming along here. We're going to be keeping track of you, seeing how you do there in Espanyol. Hopefully, next season, starting to get senior minutes. Um, I'll also put your link if you want everyone to follow you in social media down below. Everyone, thank you
All
very
right.
much for tuning in. Thank you very much for being here.